Welcome to Strong Legends, daily sci-fi stories that fuel your mind. Subscribe and join the legend.
The stars beyond the Orion expanse lay silent, glittering pinpricks against the velvet black. From the observation deck of the United Earth Council flagship ISS Valkyrie, Admiral Kira Dasari studied the display, a multicolored web of diplomatic channels converging on a single point, Earth's official broadcast. Below her, in the polished steel corridors of New Avalon's orbital citadel, technicians readied the quantum relay arrays. Rows of humming core reactors pulsed with bioluminescent energy, feeding the vast antennae that would send Earth's ultimatum careening into the void. Tonight, after centuries of restraint, humanity would speak with one voice and make its demand heard. Kira turned to her second-in-command, Commander Elias Marquez, whose dark eyes reflected the cascading lights of the control panels. Tell diplomatic liaison Cara Rinaldi we have 2 hours until launch. I want final clearance on every encrypted channel. Understood, Admiral, Elias replied, tapping rapidly on his wrist console. Xiran Republic and T-Tark clans. Acknowledgements already in. The hegemony's delegates still silent. Kira nodded. For decades, the Voran hegemony had brushed aside Earth's pleas for unity against their expansion. Their fleets carved a bloody swath across settled space, and every appeal to the galactic community had ended in half measures. Now, hidden behind a facade of scientific progress, Earth had been quietly building a deterrent, advances in FTL, drives that could outrun any pursuer, antimatter lattice cannons capable of collapsing a star's crust, and psionic signal jammers that rendered enemy battlecruisers blind. She recalled the classified briefings, test jumps through the Sol slipstream gate that bent space-time like molten glass, secret trials on Europa's ice-choked surface where terraformer mechs drilled through kilometers of frozen crust to retrieve nascent neural network cores. Humanity's weapons were forged in silence, until tonight. New Avalon time. The council chamber swelled with tension. Ambassadors from 82 worlds had gathered in holographic projection, pale-skinned Xirans with liquid crystal eyes, chitin-plated T-Tark delegates whose joints clicked with every step, and representatives of smaller alliances whose mottled flag patterns undulated around them. Each awaited Earth's formal declaration. At the podium stood Earth's high diplomat, Ambassador Mira Okoye, her ebony skin framed by the silvery glow of her uniform. She paused as the final channel opened. Then, with a steady voice amplified, across trillions of kilometers she spoke. Sentient life of the Orion expanse and beyond. For centuries, Earth has watched your struggles, your victories, and your defeats. We have offered aid, shared knowledge, and upheld every treaty binding this council. Yet even as we reached out, the Voran hegemony advanced unchecked. Cities burned, cultures fell, and still, we restrained our might. Today, that restraint ends. Within 24 hours, we will reveal our full military capability, dreadnought fleets, planetary defense grids, and experimental psionic systems. Should any power oppose our demand, to halt aggressive expansion, to respect sovereign borders, to embrace a genuine peace, we will deploy those capabilities without mercy. Let this serve as both promise and warning. We do not wish for war, but we will not be held back any longer. The future of the galaxy depends on your choice. A silence descended, broken only by the electrical hum of the relay arrays. Then, the multicolored web of diplomatic icons flickered, some accepting, some quivering with load, a sign of rushed deliberation, and a few, most notably, the Voran emblem, remaining dark. Kira's heart pounded. The gamble had been made. In 24 hours, either the galaxy would unite under a new deterrent, or the Valkyrie's guns would open fire. Epilogue of the chapter in the lower decks of the Valkyrie, weapons officers calibrated their consoles. On Earth, protesters raised placards reading, "Peace through truth," while underground research complexes finalized the final phase of Project Leviathan. And above all, in the silent void, the ultimatum hurtled outward, a beacon that would set the stars ablaze. The fallout from Earth's ultimatum rippled across the galaxy like a shockwave. In every capital, Council chamber lights burned late into the cycle, advisors and generals poring over tactical projections and debating alliances. No world could remain neutral now. Earth's veiled strength had been exposed, and every power was compelled to choose a side. Voran High Command, Vorenison, the bio-organic terraces of Vorenus, Chancellor Xyrix paced before a living map of the Orion expanse. Vines of sentient coralline growth writhed beneath his fingertips, updating troop movements in real time. The chamber smelled of resin and damp stone, a reminder that every structure here was grown, not built. Admiral Arthak, Xyrix said, voice low and urgent. Do we dare strike first? The hulking Voran officer bowed his spiny crest. Our vanguard fleets stand poised at the edge of soul space, my chancellor. If we press now, we can shatter their slipstream gate before Earth can fully deploy its leviathans. Xyrix closed his mandibles. Aggression was their way. Sprawl, conquer, absorb. But Earth's sudden emergence as a superpower gave him pause. Very well. Coordinate with the Planetary Shields Division. I want every armada ready on my command. We will show them why the hegemony fears no foe. Xiran Republic, Xeris Prime Half. A galaxy away on Xeris Prime, Councillor Lan sat beneath crystalline chandeliers in the soaring halls of the Grand Citadel. Around her, the Republic's finest minds argued the merits of siding with Earth versus maintaining independence. The Xerans valued autonomy above all, but their cloaked dread of Voran reprisals now clashed with that principle. She tapped her crystalline datapad. A secure line blinked. Earth's envoy awaited. Open the channel. Moments later, Ambassador Rinaldi's hologram shimmered to life atop a misty plateau bathed in twilight. Councillor Lan, thank you for agreeing to speak. Our intelligence suggests the Voran will strike your mining facilities within days. We can help defend Xeran sovereignty, but only if you stand with us. Lan's multifaceted eyes glowed. Earth's price? Full cooperation in the Alliance's defense. Network and your fleets integrated into our command structure. You will retain governorship of your homeworlds, but military decisions will be made jointly. Silence hung between them before Lan inclined her head. I will answer your terms and secure our future. Independent coalitions in the smugglers. Dens of the periphery. Whispers of war sparked both greed and fear. Captain Arlo Dren of the Crimson Salvo saw opportunity. With big powers clashing, the markets will be ripe. I'll rent out my freighter convoy to the highest bidder, be it Earth or hegemony. But on the humanitarian station, Gaia Haven, philanthropist Terran Shale, organized convoys of relief ships. War breeds famine, she told her staff. We must prepare to feed refugees and treat the wounded. Whether they trust us or not, we will be there. Across these fractured fringes, pirates and medics alike stocked supplies, trading rumors of Earth's psionic jammers and Voran living dreadnoughts. Every trader adjusted their ledgers. Every engineer updated blueprints. The storm was coming, and none could hide. Earth's inner sanctum back aboard the ISS Valkyrie, Admiral Dasari convened her command staff in the strategic war room. Holographic star charts flickered, showing Voran fleets advancing on key choke points and Xeran task forces mobilizing alongside Earth escorts. Intel confirms that the Voran will attempt a preemptive strike on the Sol slipstream gate within the next 96 standard hours, reported Lieutenant Chen, her fingers dancing over a holo display. They've massed 15 battle groups at the edge of the system, Dasari steepled her fingers. Then we strike first, activate Operation Stormbreaker, launch our stealth frigates to harry their vanguard, deploy orbital mines in the asteroid belt, and ready the Leviathans for immediate warp. No commander waits. Her officers exchanged determined nods. The Valkyrie's corridors thrummed with activity as crews prepared for the coming onslaught. In New Avalon's Undercity, engineers slipped through sealed doors to the hidden bays where the Leviathan-class dreadnoughts waited in cryogenic slumber, their antimatter cores humming with potential energy. The calm before the fury as war fleets coalesced on all sides. An uneasy lull fell over the expanse. Traders delayed shipments, civilian vessels were rerouted, protests flared in Earth's orbital habitats, some chanting, "Peace through unity," others screaming, expose their
Lies.
But most inhabitants watched the skies with fear and awe, knowing history's deadliest chapter was about to unfold. In that fragile pause, alliances solidified. Voran armadas glowed with living bioceramic plating. Xeran cruisers formed wedge, formations alongside Earth destroyers. Mercenary lancers signed charters by the scores. All awaited the spark that would ignite the storm. And in the deep reaches, the void itself seemed to hold its breath, anticipating the clash of titans, the thunder of antimatter cannons, and the shattering of worlds in the war without mercy that loomed on the horizon. The countdown ended in silent dread. At 0317 Galactic Standard Time on the 24th hour, every sensor on ISS Valkyrie flickered to life. Red warning lights bathed the bridge as Lieutenant Chen's voice cut through the tension. Contact. Enemy vanguard emerging from slipstream exit. 15 battle groups bearing Voran insignia, bearing down on point 27 of the Trigon Expanse. Admiral Kira Dasari rose from her command chair. Battle stations, she ordered. Deploy Leviathan-class dreadnoughts Alpha, Gamma, and Delta. Maintain formation Delta 39, and prepare antimatter lances on my mark. The clash at Trigon moments. Later, the silent darkness of the expanse exploded in fire. The Leviathans, towering dreadnoughts over 2 kilometers long, erupted from warp with streaks of blue plasma. Their antimatter lattice cannons converged, unleashing collimated beams that ripped through Voran cruisers like slicing spectral blades. Explosions bloomed across the battlefield. Hulls ruptured, living bioshields faltered, and debris danced in zero-G. Accompanying Earth destroyers wove through the chaos, their point defense lasers dancing in arcs to intercept incoming missiles. Behind them, stealth frigates skulked among icy asteroids, launching torpedoes at unsuspecting flankers. On the Voran side, Admiral Arthak barked orders from his flagship Vornax Mercy. His spiny hull writhed with living tendrils that repaired minor breaches in real time. Yet even as the Voran answered with gravity mines and psionic pulse cannons, they found themselves outmatched by Earth's long-range superiority and integrated targeting nets. Their jamming fields are disrupting. Our Navarres, Arthak snarled. Fall back, reform at Alpha Perseus. We cannot win with this handicap. But Earth's tactical grid anticipated the retreat. 3 orbital minefields previously seeded in the asteroid belt detonated simultaneously, cutting off the Voran's escape corridor. Furious, Arthak ordered a suicidal charge, but his flag cruiser went dark under a concentrated volley from ISS Valkyrie's secondary batteries. The Valkyrie's gambit, within the maelstrom, Admiral Dasari enacted Operation Swordbreaker. Under cloak, the frigate squadron Nightshade raced through a nebula pocket to flank the Voran center. Commander Elias Marquez, leading the squadron, keyed his comm. On my signal, release ion disruptor mines. We'll blind their rearguard and collapse their formation. As the mines bloomed, Voran escorts faltered, their sensors scrambled by EMP arcs. Earth cruisers closed in, boarding shuttles launched, and firefights erupted amid the corridors of the floating carcasses. On deck 16 of the captured cruiser, Vanix's Bane, Marine Captain Suri Patel led her squad in breaching Voran troop transports, felling the Xeno warriors with pulse rifles before they could react. Back on Valkyrie, Dasari watched the holotactics display. They thought us cowed by centuries of restraint, she muttered. Let them learn what happens when humanity fights for its survival. Espionage and sacrifice. Meanwhile, in the shadows of the conflict, Earth's psionic operatives struck. Agent Mira Okoye, high diplomat turned field psionic, projected her mind into the neural network of the Voran command cruiser, tapping into quarantine logs and planting false orders that redirected reinforcements into empty sectors. But the strain nearly broke her. Staggering from the psionic trance, she collapsed in the ops deck alcove. I'm trapped, she whispered, as neural feedback seared her vision. Medic Corin J. rushed to her side, stabilizing her with a biogel injection. You saved thousands of our ship's lives, he said quietly. Rest now. Your mind will heal. Aftermath and reckoning by dawn. The battlefield was a graveyard. Earth's alliance claimed victory. 50 Voran cruisers destroyed, 3 Leviathans lost, and minimal civilian casualties. Comms channels lit up with jubilant cheers from allied systems. Xeran scouts relayed congratulatory signals, while independent coalitions sent relief tenders for wounded survivors. Admiral Dasari stood before the makeshift memorial on Valkyries. Foredeck. The names of every Earth officer lost in the engagement etched into titanium panels. She pressed a hand to the cold metal. "This was our first strike," she said softly. "May it be our last." But across the stars, survivor transmissions told of Voran worlds drumming for vengeance. The war had been joined in earnest, and mercy was a memory. As the first blood dried on the void, both sides braced for the grinding conflict to come, knowing that neither would yield until the other was utterly broken. The galaxy had splintered. Earth's alliance, bolstered by Xeran fleets and dozens of minor worlds, held firm against the relentless fury of the Voran hegemony. Yet it was the Independents, the ragtag coalition of smugglers, mercenaries, and idealists, that became the hidden dagger in the war's back, the spark of rebellion. On the rugged world of Elysia 4, twin suns burned the red dust plains into an inferno by day and froze them at night. Here, former Admiral Jos Mar, once a decorated officer of the Galactic Defense Coalition, had retreated after his council fell to Voran invasion. In an abandoned terraforming facility, he forged the resistance, hardened vets, and idealistic pilots united by one creed: strike where the hegemony least expected. Under Mar's command, Ion Vipers darted through asteroid chains to launch surprise raids on Voran convoys. In one daring mission, a cloaked squadron Phantom 5 boarded the dreadnought Vorangar's Wrath, disabling its warp drives and leaving it adrift as Earth destroyers closed in. Each act of defiance sent ripples of hope across occupied systems and galvanized planets under the Voran boot to whisper rebellion. The hegemony's Fury Chancellor Xyrix summoned his High Inquisition to devise vengeance. In hidden biolabs atop Voranis's living spires, they perfected the Pyre, Cloud, a viral biomechanical plague engineered to devastate organic and synthetic life alike. Released at the hegemony's border worlds, it spread on iridescent spores that seeped into atmospheric currents, consuming cities within days. On the mining colony of Ilara 10, entire districts fell silent beneath a violet haze. Emergency broadcasts faded into garbled static. Survivors found themselves twisted into bioconstructs, their minds lost to the virus's hive consciousness. Everywhere the Pyre Cloud touched, it left husks of steel and bone, a brutal testament to the cost of rebellion. Earth's dire response news of the Pyre Cloud's atrocities broke Earth's Council's final restraint. In an emergency session aboard New Avalon, Ambassador Mira Okoye, her strength returned, pleaded for decisive action. "They weaponize genocide. We cannot stand by while worlds perish." High above the Sol Slipstream Gate, the Council activated Omega Protocol, a planetary-scale counterstrike linking every defensive system in Earth's territory. From orbital maelstrom cannons to buried neutron charges, the pulse began its synchronized drumbeat of destruction. At Odo 6 Wars New Avalon Standard Time, a subsonic shockwave rippled through the void. Sensor arrays recorded the collapse of 23 hegemony supply worlds as shield generators overloaded in cascading failures. In the Elysia system, resistance cell scouts looked on in awe as Voran blockade stations erupted in silent nova flashes. This is retribution without mercy," whispered Jos Mar, eyes dark with conflicted triumph. The tide turns, at a cost. With their supply lines severed, Voran armadas faltered. Xeran cruisers exploited the chaos, cutting off retreat paths and liberating key outposts. The independent factions, pirates turned patriots, provided vital intelligence, smuggling refugees and munitions through newly opened corridors. Yet victory bore a bitter edge. The Omega Pulse had sacrificed dozens of neutral worlds caught too, close to hegemony space. On Kronos 7, centuries-old monuments lay in rubbled silence after buried charges detonated beneath their surface. Humanitarian ships raced to deliver food and medicines, but the cost of salvation weighed heavily on Earth's leaders. Admiral Dasari, summoned to the Council's summit, spoke with quiet resolve. We sought to stop genocide, but at what price? We must now rebuild trust, not just weapons. The galaxy will remember this day as our darkest hour or our moment of redemption. Shadows of the Futuristic. Foreign survivors retreated toward the galactic core, their fleets shattered and resources dwindling. Pockets of resistance lit new fires on occupied worlds. On Elysia IV, Admiral Mar raised the Alliance banner over the reclaimed terraforming plant, dedicating it as a memorial to those lost under the Pyre cloud. Yet across the void, Chancellor Xyrix swore a silent oath amidst the ruins of his capital. They may have broken our armadas, but they have forged our resolve. Let them come. We will meet them in the shadows. In the wake of retribution, both sides nursed their wounds. Empires had crumbled, alliances had shifted, and the galaxy teetered on the edge of transformation. Peace would demand far more than the silencing of guns. It would require rebuilding faith in a future wrought from the ashes of war without mercy. The shattered remains of Vorenus loomed beneath the orbit of ISS Valkyrie, its once living biostructures reduced to inert stone. In the eerie silence of space, Earth's Alliance fleet assembled in precise battle formation. Dreadnoughts stood. At the vanguard, cruisers formed protective wings, and squat Xeran carriers lingered in the rear, their shuttles poised for occupation duty. The final blow was at hand. The ultimatum renewed. Admiral Kira Dasari stepped onto the Valkyrie's observation deck, her uniform crisp despite months of unrelenting conflict. At her side, Ambassador Mira Okoye, now clad in a blue ceremonial sash, activated the holoprojector. Above the wreckage of the Voran Palace, a glowing banner unfurled with pulsing red script. Chancellor Xyrix, your reign of conquest ends now. Surrender unconditionally, lay down your living armadas, and comply with alliance terms, or face the obliteration of every world under your rule. This is your final warning. Across the void, the Voran High Command's response blinked into existence, delayed by damaged comm relays. Xyrix's emaciated figure filled the hologram, his crystalline eyes flickering with defiance and exhaustion. You have broken our fleets and burned our worlds, yet you demand our submission as though mercy were yours to grant. Very well. We choose to meet you in the ashes. Prepare to witness the last stand of the hegemony. His image fractured and died. The hour had come. The final assault. At Admiral Dasari's command, the Alliance struck. The Leviathan-class dreadnought ISS Athena decloaked above the Capitol domes, unleashing an antimatter lance that carved a chasm through the bioshield generators. Simultaneously, Xeran railguns on the flanks hammered the shattered terraces, fracturing the corridors that once nourished the living city's organs. On the planet's surface, Earth's terraformer assault mechs, giant hulking constructs, originally designed to reshape barren worlds, erupted from hidden hangars. Their drills blazed with fusion plasma, tunneling through the Coraline architecture to sever vital conduits. Resistance fighters clad in scavenged Voran armor moved behind them. Marines, mercenaries, and former hegemony dissidents united in a single purpose: to reclaim and rebuild. Yet even as the onslaught overwhelmed the defenders, a final gambit unfolded. From the core vaults of Vorenus, the High Inquisition unleashed Project Eclipse, a moon-shattering warhead buried beneath the planet's northern polar plateau. Its silent activation triggered tremors across the surface, threatening to fracture the world itself. Race against cataclysm. Sensors aboard the Valkyrie screamed warnings. Lieutenant Chen's voice crackled. Admiral, seismic readings indicate critical instability. Project Eclipse will breach containment in under 5 minutes. Evacuation orders are active, but there are thousands of civilians still trapped below. Dasari's jaw clenched, Send all shuttles and dropships to the northern sector. Marines gear up for underground rescue. Engineer teams prepare countercharges to seal the vault. Execute on my mark. As the Valkyrie's shuttles descended through stratospheric dust, the planet trembled. Voron's Psi security squad scrambled to thwart the rescue, igniting firefights in the winding tunnels. Above, orbital bombardment was dialed back to avoid, triggering the warhead prematurely. Captain Suri Patel led her Marine squad through collapsing corridors, guiding panicked survivors toward safety. Behind her, terraformer mechs planted seismic dampeners, powerful sonic emitters designed to absorb the warhead's shockwave. As the countdown timer inched toward 0, the dampeners hummed to life, fields of resonant energy rippling through the stone. At 0, a deafening roar that should have shattered continents. Instead, the warp in spacetime around the polar plateau buckled, siphoning the blast into a transient pocket before harmlessly dissipating. The warhead's yield was absorbed, and Varanus did not crumble. Surrender and salvation with Project. Eclipse neutralized. Chancellor Xyrix's voice returned across all channels, strained but clear. I yield. By the ancient codes of the hegemony, I submit to the will of the Alliance. No further blood need stain these halls. The Alliance fleet ceased fire. Earth's flagships broadcast instructions for occupation forces to restore basic utilities, deliver medical aid, and begin reconstruction. Xeran engineers offered their crystalline architects to heal the living walls, and independent coalitions dispatched relief caravans loaded with food, water, and building materials. On the Valkyries, Deck Admiral Dasari and Chancellor Xyrix met face to face, one in a human uniform, the other in ceremonial cerulean garb. Dasari extended her hand. This war will be measured not by our victories but by our capacity to rebuild. If the hegemony honors this peace, the galaxy may yet heal. Xyrix hesitated, his crystalline eyes reflecting the wreckage around them. Slowly he grasped her hand. Then let this be the inaugural act of a new era. Epilogue. A fragile peace. In the months that followed, the galaxy began its slow recovery. Council sessions no longer convened under the threat of war, but to negotiate trade pacts, joint scientific ventures, and cultural exchanges. On Elysia IV, the Resistance rebranded as the Guardians of the Expanse, tasked with policing smuggling lanes and aiding reconstruction. Terraformer mechs reshaped planet Orcs 9 into verdant habitats for displaced refugees. Back on Earth, protests gave way to rebuilding efforts. Humanity's leaders pledged that the power which saved the galaxy would never again be used for conquest. The Sol Slipstream Gate, once a symbol of hidden might, became a public corridor for student exchanges and civilian travel. Ambassador Okoye stood before a crowd at New Avalon's Grand Piazza, adorned with holographic banners reading, "From Ashes, Unity." Yet in the silent void beyond, watchposts remained vigilant. The scars of war ran deep, and echoes of mistrust persisted in forgotten systems. War without mercy had ended, but the struggle for trust and cooperation had only just begun. As Admiral Dasari looked out upon the star-strewn sky, she whispered to herself, "Peace is not won with weapons, but with the strength to forgive." And in that moment, the galaxy dared to hope that mercy might yet triumph over the memory of its darkest hour.